Well, Mr. Salmond, you've already upset a lot of Gaelic speakers today in your launch by constantly referring to the Alba party, which apparently is a mispronunciation. Would you like to correct it?
It's Alba. Alba's the Gaelic, but Alba is the ancient name for Scotland, the Kingdom of Alba. But you're quite correct. The Gaelic pronunciation is Alba. So we'll be campaigning for the Alba and the Alba party, and we're hoping to get a lot of votes right across Scotland. Incidentally,
now,
I know that because I took part in the launch of a fishing research vessel called Alba de Mara. That's how I know it's Alba.
Very good. Now, how many women do you think are going to vote for you after all the revelations of the last couple of years?
Well, a very substantial number, as you'll see from a list of candidates when we announce it over the weekend, and you'll see some surprises coming your way. You see, most people, most reasonable people, fair-minded people, accept the verdict of a jury. That is the innocent verdict of a jury. And with two judges, two court cases, one jury, 3 investigations and the verdict in, most fair-minded people in Scotland accept the results of that. Now, my political opponents won't do that, but then, of course, they're panicking because we're about to take their votes and their seats. But the most important thing is that Alba will be building votes and seats for independence for Scotland.
Of course, it's quite true that you were acquitted in the trial. But during the course of this, of course, it was revealed about your inappropriate sexual behaviour. Your own lawyer referred to you behaving badly, inappropriately. He referred to you as a sex pest and a bully at one point. So this is different now, isn't it? When you're facing the court of public opinion.
Yeah, and I'm facing the court of public opinion. But really, if you're going to make allegations like that, you better get your facts right. That is not true. That did not happen at the trial. Have a look at your researchers for Channel 4 and ask them the questions. Our defence was the complaints against me were either exaggerations or fabrications. And the important point was that a jury, having heard all of the evidence, acquitted me on all charges. And as I say, most fair-minded people will accept that. And, you know, after the two court cases, because we won in the highest civil court in Scotland as well as the highest criminal court in Scotland, 2 judges, a jury and 3 investigations, that most people in Scotland think it's time to move on. And I certainly want to move on to the issues that matter to men and women in Scotland. And that's what Alba is going to do. And you'll see by the support that we rally behind us that the vast majority of people will share that opinion. The one thing I can say about Alba's campaign is that we'll be positive and contribute to a positive political debate. You won't hear a word out of any Alba or Alba party candidate anything negative about Scotland. We're not even bothered about our political opponents. We're interested in building a supermajority for independence in the Scots Parliament. We have the opportunity to do it, and we're determined to seize it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. We'll get on to the specifics, but there is still a question over whether you're going to apologise to the women concerned. And your lawyer did refer to your behaviour as bad and inappropriate. He was overheard on a train referring to you as a sex pest. Nothing I said there was untrue. So, I mean, this is going to face you on the doorstep. When people, you knock on a door and talk to people, they're going to ask you about this stuff. So what's your answer to, are you sorry to those women?
But as you should know, Christian, the Gordon Jackson put out a statement denying that he'd ever regarded me as any such thing. So let's have a fair report. But, you know, look, media, political opponents, fair-minded people in Scotland respect the verdict of a jury. So if you've got a beef with it, then take it up with the jury. Most of us want to move on to talking about constructively about Scotland's future.
OK, so you're not sorry, but let's talk about working constructively. If you get into the Scottish Parliament, are you going to vote for Nicola Sturgeon to be the First Minister?
Well, given that we support independence for Scotland, it's highly likely that we'll support the candidate who wins the most seats on that platform. That's what Alba is designed to do, to further the cause of independence for Scotland. Remember, these are two different things. I mean, I became First Minister of Scotland, and I think, if I remember correctly, 49 votes out of 129 in the Scots Parliament, because I had more than any of the others. But it looks like the SNP will sweep the boards on the constituency section of the of the Scottish Parliament. I welcome that. But it also looks certain, or very likely, let's put it that way, that despite garnering 1 million votes potentially on the list, the regional list section, they won't get a single seat. Now, that is the opportunity. That's potentially 1 million wasted independence votes.
Why do you say that?
And Alba can fill that, because that was the Survation poll of yesterday, which had the SNP on 39% in the regional list. And the projection was they would not get a single regional list seat because they were getting 67 seats on the constituency section. That's how the proportional system works in the Scots Parliament, and gives Alba an opportunity to fill that void in the independence cause.
Well, I mean, one poll doesn't make a reality, and the SNP have won list seats, and they're hoping to win more because they're hoping to persuade people to come back from the Greens this time round. So you are happy
Christian,
for Nicola Sturgeon to be First Minister?
Beg pardon. Well, obviously, I was First Minister working the proportional system we have in Scotland. And the fact is that the more successful you are in the constituency section of the vote, the less seats you get, potentially none in the regional list section. That's how it works. Yes, the Survation poll was only one poll yesterday, but if we take the last election, there was almost 1 million votes for the SNP in the list, and they got a total return of 4 regional list seats. So quite clearly, the Alba party, or another of the independent supporting list parties, if they garner even half or a third of these votes, would get many, many more independent supporting MSPs. And that is the opportunity to build a supermajority for independence in the next Scottish Parliament. Many of us in Scotland are really excited by that prospect, by that opportunity, because that will strengthen the hand of the Scots Parliament by having the debate configured not as Tory party against SNP, Boris Johnson against Nicola Sturgeon, but Boris Johnson against the Scottish Parliament representing the Scottish people. That will give an enormous advantage to Scotland. That's an opportunity we're determined to seize.
But there is no supermajority for independence in Scotland. It hasn't got to 60% in any of the opinion polls. So you are using the system to trick people into delivering an electoral supermajority that doesn't exist in reality.
Well, I think the highest poll rating was 58% for independence, which is not far off a 60%, Christian.
It's way back down now.
The people will decide. The people will decide the number of MSPs from the Alba party or from any other party that go into the Scots Parliament. That's the great virtue of election campaigns. I mean, first past the post, we have Boris Johnson ruling Scotland at the present moment with a minority of the votes in Scotland, a handful of MPs, but he rules England with a minority of the vote thanks to the first past the post system. But he doesn't complain about having a majority of almost 100 in the UK Parliament. The system that we have, the regional list system, is vastly superior to first past the post, and list parties have the entitlement to compete for votes with everybody else. And if the public support us, then we'll go in with a number of MSPs across the regional lists of Scotland, and we'll help build that supermajority as well as contribute to the independence cause. Now, that, we think, is an exciting development.
Are you happy to have Tory votes? Some Conservatives will relish the thought of putting you personally into the Scottish Parliament up against Nicola Sturgeon and causing some trouble. Are you appealing to Conservatives to back you?
Oh, I want every single voter in Scotland to vote Alba. That's the cause of every political party. But of course, the real threat that Alba poses is to the Unionist, Conservative and Labour parties, because these are parties which have been unable in recent elections to win many constituencies, but have managed to get in the regional list. We provide competition on that regional list, allow it to be judged on its merits, and we could reduce substantially the number of Unionist MSPs from both the Conservative and the Labour Party, and indeed the Liberal Democrats, who are absolutely furious at the present moment, because obviously if you build democratically, properly, competing for votes, a supermajority for independence, then that, by definition, is a reduction in the number of Unionist MSPs. I expect to see a Scottish Parliament which backs independence, which contributes to the new independence platform, and which brings forward ideas for Scotland's economic recovery from the pandemic.
You haven't been able to persuade your great ally, Joanna Cherry, to join you. And after she's already burned her bridges with Nicola Sturgeon in the SNP. I mean, why aren't you able to persuade even people like that? Is it that she doesn't want to give up electoral politics?
Well, you don't know what Joanna Cherry thinks, Christian. I'm absolutely certain
because she's
of that.
tweeted.
But Joanna Cherry...
She said, I intend to return to work as the SNP MP for Edinburgh.
Yes, as I was just going to make the point, that Joanna's taking some time out at the present moment. And I really think it would be a grand idea if neither you or I speculated on Joanna's views. She's entitled to take that time off for health and family reasons, and surely we should respect that. But I think I wouldn't be betraying too many confidence to say over the next few days,
as the SNP MP for Edinburgh South West.
Well, can I just say, when somebody's taking time off for health and family reasons, I don't think it's reasonable to discuss them, even on the Channel 4, Christian. But what I would say is this, that today we've planted our saltire on the hill. That's a huge enterprise to launch a political party 6 weeks before an election. We're not presuming anything. But if we can put forward our arguments in a positive, reasonable fashion for independence for our country, then I think a number of people will rally to that standard. But listen, time will tell over the next few days, over the next few weeks, and we'll see if people think that Alba or Alba is a significant contribution to the independence cause.
Well, but what's the political difference between you and the SNP? What do you disagree with Nicola Sturgeon on?
Well, in terms of the independence construction, I think it is this, that I think it's not the best idea to present independence as the Prime Minister against the First Minister, because it allows the Tory party to say this is an SNP obsession. It's something that only the SNP puts forward. I think it would be immeasurably stronger a position to include the Parliament and the forces supporting independence in the Parliament in the independence case and the independence negotiations, because then you place Boris Johnson in the position of not taking on a single political party, the SNP, but taking on a Parliament representing the people of Scotland. And I think you'll find that a much more difficult and a much more uncomfortable position, and one that's difficult to say no to. Well, the difference would be if there's that supermajority in the Scottish Parliament. Listen, I would have loved betwing, for example, the years 2007
politically,
and 2011,
what's the political difference between you and the SNP?
Negotiate. Well, I was going to tell you why I would have loved in 2007, 2011 to have a secure position in the Parliament as I was negotiating with Westminster. I know how important that is, and it really is important. There are a number of differences in terms of policy emphasis. We have a policy conference in Alba, which will be developed a week tomorrow, a week on Saturday with our candidates. We've got a qualities paper going to that conference. We've got an economic reconstruction paper. These are ideas that we want to contribute to rebuilding our economy from COVID, but also to contribute to the independence debate. But everything we do in this campaign, and this is an absolute pledge, every single thing we do will be put forward in a positive, constructive manner, because reasonable people in Scotland, fair-minded people in Scotland are waiting for that message and waiting for that attitude to politics.
It doesn't look positive and constructive. It looks like revenge, and like you're out to get Nicola Sturgeon, because you won't say that you support her individually, personally. Well,
I'm very happy to say that not only am I prepared to say if I was in Govan constituency, I'd be voting for Nicola Sturgeon on the constituency ballot as the independent supporting MSP, but I'm happy to say that Alba will be supporting SNP MSPs across Scotland in the constituency ballot. Indeed, I said it at the press conference. So far from being destructive of the SNP, we're trying to boost their chances, do our modest best to boost them on the constituency ballot. All we're trying to do is to win more seats for independence on the regional list ballot. Now, I don't think we'll get a reciprocal endorsement from the SNP for the regional list, but nonetheless, you can hardly say that we're not giving them a fair wind to win as many constituencies as they possibly can, because there's two elements to the supermajority. SNP's success on the constituency ballot and some success for Alba and perhaps other parties on the regional list ballot, all supporting Scottish independence.
So is Nicola Sturgeon the woman to lead Scotland to independence?
Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope that that Nicola Sturgeon will lead Scotland to independence, because she's the likely First Minister of the next Parliament. And I'm sure Nicola, like myself, doesn't make any assumptions or presumptions about how people will vote. But what I want to see, and what Alba wants to see, is Scotland striding forward to independence within the context and term of the next Scottish Parliament. So therefore, by definition, that would seem a likely scenario. But lots of people in Scotland want to see that independence issue taken forward by the Parliament.
So people should vote SNP.
I think it will fundamentally, well, as I've already explained, there are potentially 1 million wasted SNP votes in the regional lists, because they'll get either no MSPs in return or very, very few MSPs in return. That is the political opportunity that Alba can see, and we are determined to seize. And that's a very reasonable thing to do in any democratic system. The logic is impeccable if we can argue. Christian, the trouble with I don't mind normally, as you're well aware, the interruptions, but there's a delay in the line which makes them
I'm sorry.
a bit difficult. But the point I was trying to make was to say that's a competition for votes. That's what you do in elections. And I'm not decrying anybody else or any other political party for competing for votes. We'll be competing hard as Alba. And if we put forward a strong, positive message for independence, I think we might surprise even Channel 4 News by the number of people who rally to our standard.
Well, I see your argument, but isn't it also true that if enough people vote SNP on both their votes, the SNP will also win seats on the list, the SNP will get a majority in the Scottish Parliament, as it's had before, and will be able to deliver independence?
Yeah, I remember that, because if I remember correctly, the First Minister was Alex Salmond when we got that majority in 2011. And even in 2011, we got a bare handful of seats on the list section. Now, on that poll, I know it's only one poll that I mentioned, the SNP indeed would have got, according to that poll, 67 seats, which would give them a majority in the Parliament. But they would have got nothing on the list.
But the polls are down because of you.
I'm pointing out.
The polls are down because of your campaign against Nicola Sturgeon.
No, I'm sorry. They would have got 67 seats, which is out to 73 on the constituency section. I mean, that would be a sweeping victory, surpassing all expectations if that poll's correct. But they would get no seats at all in the regional list. Now, if Alba were able to gather some votes from independent supporters on a positive platform, then instead of having 67 or 70 or even 80 MSPs supporting independence, it might be as many as 90. That would be the supermajority, the solid platform of having a parliament behind you supporting independence and advocating independence that would redress some of the imbalance of power between Scotland and Westminster. I think it's thoroughly a good thing for the independence cause. It's an opportunity we shouldn't miss.
Just finally, now that you're leading a political party again, you have responsibility for putting in place measures and safeguards to make sure women feel safe at work. What are you going to do differently this time? Well,
two things. One of the good things that came out of the various court cases and the inquiries, and the Dunlop review in particular, was a range of things to get the Scottish government hopefully adopting a lawful, fair and just policy which should satisfy everybody. And secondly, as announced today for Alba, that Eva Comrie, one of our candidates, has come across from the SNP, is producing an equalities paper to go out to our candidates conference a week tomorrow, which will not just talk about safe places for women at work, but safe places for women across society, which is one of the great debates which we're having in Scotland at the present moment. I look forward to seeing that equalities paper and giving it my support.
Alex Salmond, thank you very much.